We now join our regularly scheduled programming already in progress.
And it's the loss of a mentor, hope, or identity. Just something shakes the main character to their core. Step 12 is the dark night of the soul. And here in your story, the hero reflects on failure and realizes what truly needs to change. I like to call it the come to Jesus moment. And it's where the emotional transformation starts. If your character, after all is lost and, all the bad things have happened, the tension has reached its peak, your character is having that moment with themselves, like, okay, I really gotta get it together. So that's what it means to me. And for a more modern example, like in Mulan, when she looks at her reflection after being exposed, she realized her honor isn't about other people's approval. It's about more so proving something to herself on behalf of her father. And then step 13 would be break into 3. The main character is armed with new wisdom, and then that hero chooses to act differently with that new wisdom. Step 14 would be the finale. Here, the hero faces the antagonist or whatever central conflict they've had going on for the story, using everything they learned on their journey, and their world is restored, transformed, or both. And then lastly, the final image, and it's a mirror of the opening image, and it shows how much the hero and their world has changed through the course of the entire story. For example, in The Lion King again, when Simba stood where his father once stood on Pride Rock, and it's that full circle moment, like the circle of life where he was born and he stood there just like Mufasa did. And the last bit of advice from my editor is the hero's journey. So the first part would be, it's the main character's ordinary world, and that is showing the hero's normal life before the adventure begins, and it establishes the comfort zones, the flaws, and the stakes. For example, in The Lion King, we see that Simba lives happily on Pride Rock. He's living as a young cub, he's learning about life, and he's carefree under Mufasa's guidance. And then the second part is the call to adventure, and that is when something disrupts the ordinary world, and that is inviting the hero to take a challenge or the journey. And the example of that for The Lion King is Scar plots against Mufasa, tempting Simba towards danger and subtly introducing a threat to the Pride Lands. Third part is the refusal to the call, where the hero hesitates due to the fear, doubt, or attachment to comfort, and it shows that internal battle and humanity. And for the Lion King example, it would be after Mufasa's death, when Simba runs away and he's just overcome guilt, fear, thinking that he's the person responsible for his death, and in that he is avoiding his responsibility of being king during this whole madness of Mufasa dying. The fourth part would be meeting the mentor, where a guy will come, offer wisdom, encouragement, and whatever tools that the hero needs for their journey ahead. In The Lion King, it's when Simba meets Rafiki, who teaches him to reflect on Mufasa's lesson and to discover Simba's own identity, helping him reconnect with his destiny because of that traumatic event. The fifth part is where the hero crosses the threshold. The hero leaves the familiar world and then fully commits to that adventure, entering a realm of unknown rules and risks. And in The Lion King, Simba returns back to the Pride Land, leaving his carefree life with Timon and Pumbaa, and he's ready to face Scar and return to his rightful place as the king. The next part is tests, allies, and enemies. The hero faces challenges, gains allies, and confronts enemies, revealing their growth and their strength. And in The Lion King, it's when Simba teams up with Nala, Timon, and Pumbaa while confronting Scar and his hyenas. And through all of these challenges, it helps Simba develop the courage and leadership that he needs to become the king of the Pride Lands. The next part is the approach to the innermost cave, where the hero prepares for the central challenge of confronting fear, uncertainty, or danger right before the climax. And it's also when Simba observes the devastation that Scar has caused in the Pride Lands, and he has to mentally prepare himself for their final battle. Next comes the ordeal, and it is the central crisis, which is a life or death moment, which is symbolic or it can be literal, that tests the hero. And then here in The Lion King, it's when Simba battles Scar in that fight in the middle of the Pride Lands. They're going for Rogue, hoping to be the rightful king. Simba's hoping to be the rightful king, using everything that he learned up to this point. The next part is the reward, or seizing the sword. And after surviving whatever ordeal the main character has gone through, the hero, main character, has gotten a reward, whether that's wisdom, power, or an achievement. And in The Lion King, it's when Simba defeats Scar and then reclaims his rightful place as Pride Rock. And not only does he gain that, he gains his confidence, self-acceptance, and leadership as well. And then comes the road back, and that is when the hero begins returning to their ordinary role, facing lingering challenges and applying whatever lessons they learned up to this point. And in The Lion King, it's when Simba restores the Pride Lands and applying his wisdom and strength to bring back order. And then comes the resurrection, the final test proving the transformation is complete. And in The Lion King, it's when Simba fully embraces his role as a king. And next is the return with the elixir. The hero comes back transformed, bringing something beneficial to the world, whatever they learn. And in The Lion King, it's when Simba restores harmony to the Pride Lands, completing the circle of life and showing how much he's grown. And we can just see that just in the movie, from when he was a cub to he was a full-grown lion, and the various lessons that he learned and the challenges that he overcame throughout his life. So those are some pieces of advice that my editor gave me through the course of my her editing my work, and it really helped me understand how to structure my story, how to give my main character a wish line, and to just continue to tighten up my writing to make it more entertaining for readers, and just to keep that pacing up and to make sure we cut the fluff, trim the fat, and make it a very entertaining story. Overall, it's a lot of information, but it's really fun. And as they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. It all takes time. Slow and steady wins the race. That's the name of the game, honestly. So with that being said, it's still a labor of love. It's a journey, and it's a worthwhile one. Once the final product is made on the shelves and printed out and in my hand, and it makes sense that people are loving what they are reading. So if you stayed this long, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to hear more about my journey as an independent author and all of the things that I've learned along the way. Thanks, guys. See you in the next one.